Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. We're going to be talking about recent releases, some players were let go, and we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about some potential free agent targets for the Dolphins, and maybe some surprise cuts as well. I don't think anybody's really going to be surprised at anybody's cut, especially with all that has been said this offseason. So, let's get right into it. I think we should just start with the most obvious news. And we'll start with this one. Dolphins cut Ted Larson. The Dolphins are cutting guard Ted Larson. I don't think did we talk about Andre Brace's release? I think we did, so we're going to skip over that. But yeah, Ted Larson has been let go. I think he spent 2 years with us. He was terrible. I mean, what else can you say about that? I mean, he was really, really bad. It wasn't very physical in the running game. Wasn't consistent in the passing game. He was not very good. And especially in the running game. I mean, he was really, really bad. He sucked. He was not a very athletic guard. He couldn't really pull all that much. And he wasn't physical. He wasn't moving a lot of people out of the way. He just all around wasn't very good. So this was a good release. He just wasn't good depth at all. And he couldn't stay healthy. So, I mean, really, it was a good release. I mean, a lot of these players are going to be good releases. If I'm a little low energy today, I'm sick, so that's probably the reason why. And hopefully I don't have to blow my nose because it's leaking everywhere. All right, next news story. This all comes from Pro Football Rumors, by the way. Dolphins cut Danny Amendola. Parting ways with the veteran wide receiver will create $6 million in cap room for Miami, which will be hit with no dead money charges. Obviously, he was 33 years old. This one's a little interesting because there were points. I mean, there was a lot of plays where Danny Amendola was wide open and nobody hit him. I mean, in the Patriots game where we got utterly destroyed when we went on the road to Gillette, there was a lot of plays where Danny was open and Tannehill just didn't find him. There were a lot of plays when Brock was the starter where Danny was open. I mean, there was a play against the Jets where he had a touchdown. There was a play against the Packers where he had a touchdown at one point. Danny was he could have been a lot more productive if it wasn't for bad quarterback play. So this is not as clear cut as some people may think, actually. Was he consistent? Who the heck really knows? I mean, I'm sure there were other times he was open and he wasn't hit. He had a really good preseason. A lot of these guys actually had, some of our free agent acquisitions in 2018. A lot of them had really good preseasons, and for whatever reason, they just really couldn't do that in the regular season. But this one is not as... I mean, this one's pretty obvious for me. I would have done the same thing. But he's not like he's a bad player, is my point, I guess. He had 579 receiving yards. He had one touchdown catch. So, not really productive, but he would have been more productive if the quarterback play was better. And if the offensive line play was better. I feel like he would have had a pretty good season. Unfortunately, because of his age and the direction we're moving, we had to let him go. I think that's it for we got one more. Dolphins unlikely to re-sign Cameron Wake. This is the saddest one. It sounds like Cameron Wake will be playing for a new team in 2019. The Dolphins have not made an effort to re-sign the impending free agent defensive end, according to Armando Salguero of the Miami Herald. This one sucks. He's been the best player. I mean, he's a top 5 Dolphin, I would say, of the last 20 years. Maybe even a little bit more than 20 years, I would say. One of the best players in the history of the franchise. When you look at his number, since 2010, I think he's number 1 in sacks. And that's over J.J. Watt. That's over Von Miller. So that's really, really impressive. I think he's super underrated to how good he is. Is he the same player he was in, let's say, 2014, 2013, 2012? I don't think so. I think this has a lot to do with his age as well, but he is not the best run defender in the world. He doesn't set the edge. He struggles against athletic quarterbacks. He's not the most athletic guy in the world. He's not the biggest defensive end in the world. So I really don't think he fits the hybrid scheme. And I don't think he's the player he used to be. I think he's a really good situational pass rusher still. I think he could still do that at a very high level. But I think it is time to move on. Best wishes to Cameron Wake. I hope he goes somewhere and he wins a lot of games. I really do believe. I really hope that happens for him. Obviously, the only time that he had a winning season and went to the playoffs was the 2016 season, because I think Cameron got here in 2009, and that was the year after we won the division. So I'm pretty sure that's when he became a Dolphin. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's the only time he had a successful season here. So hopefully he goes somewhere and he experiences winning at a high level, because he deserves it. It really sucks, and I think a lot of people underrate Cameron. He is one of the best players to ever put on the jersey. So I don't think he gets the respect he deserves, and unfortunately, just like a Jason Taylor, at a lesser extent. I'm not comparing. I don't think he's as talented as a Jason Taylor, but he does fall in that same category as a Zach Thomas, as a Jason Taylor, as a Sam Madison. They were really good players that just never got the offense that they deserved, which is unfortunate. This next news story, I think that's it for releases or potential releases. Oh, we got one more. This one's speculative, but at the same time, it's going to happen. This comes from Dolphins Wire. Devontae Parker may have signaled that he is going to be released. He posted on Instagram or Twitter or Instagram, I don't know which one, a peace sign. So I guess that means he's leaving. It's more speculative, granted, but it's still news. I figured we would throw this one in here. Yeah, this doesn't surprise me. Who does this surprise? Nobody. He's the most inconsistent player on the planet Earth. I mean, he's so talented, but for some reason, he just can't do it week in and week out. Now, whether it was scheme, who the heck knows? Granted, he was playing with not the greatest quarterbacks on the planet. He was playing with a terrible offensive line. He didn't get a lot of playing time when he probably should have last year for many different reasons. I think there's a lot of question marks with Devontae Parker. There's a lot of excuses you could bring up with a Devontae Parker, but I've been doing that on this channel since I've made it. So I think it's time to move on. I don't think it's time. I know it's time to move on for those reasons. So good riddance, in my opinion. I mean, seriously, he's all he's caused for the Dolphins is heartache. That's all he's caused. This next news story is actually an addition to the Miami Dolphins. I had to blow my nose right there. I might have to listen. You guys I'm going to look away from the mic. I'm not going to cut because I cut that time. I'm going to look away from the mic, then blow my nose. Hopefully that's not going to disturb anyway. So this next news story, the Dolphins have signed someone. Dolphins have signed tight end Dwayne Allen. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Tight end Dwayne Allen is set to join another AFC East team. The veteran told ESPN that he's going to sign with the Dolphins. It's a 2-year deal worth $7 million. He's 29 years old. He was a third-round pick in 2012. He's compiled 350 receiving yards in 3 of his healthy 5 seasons. He's had 29 games, 16 starts. Last year, he had 13 catches for 113 yards and 1 touchdown. He's not a receiving tight end. He is literally just he's like a swing tackle, basically. He's in there when we need to get physical, when we need to grind out a game. He's that guy. And that's something this Dolphins team has lacked for years, is a physical offensive line and a physical attribute to this football team we just haven't had. I mean, we're one of the more finesse, weak offensive lines over the since Tannehill's rookie season. Our offensive line has been a pushover, not physical at all offensive line. And even saying that, we were actually better at running the football the entire time Adam Gase was there than we were throwing it, which is very hard to believe. Not saying that we were good at it. I mean, 2016 we were pretty good at it, but literally that was all Jay Ajayi, who was just for some reason Superman and could break every tackle known to man. I mean, he led the league in yards after contact that year. Now, what do I think of this signing? I love it. Like I said, I think it adds a physical nature. It adds versatility to the offense. We can go if we have to run out the clock, if we have to run the football, if we want to establish the running game, he can really, really help us do that. And again, that's something that this team has been lacking, is the ability to do that. Now, a lot of people have made a lot of noise about why would the Dolphins go out and get another tight end? Because this Chris Greer is still the GM, and he was the GM when we got Durham Smythe and Mike Gesicki. I don't know whose decision it was to get Durham Smythe and Mike Gesicki, because people have also given Chris Greer the excuse for other draft picks, saying that Adam Gase and Mike Tannenbaum were involved. You could say the same thing for those two. Durham Smythe, we don't know for sure what Durham could do. I mean, he's had a little bit of playing time, and the thing that he was drafted for is because he could run block, not necessarily his receiving prowess. And obviously the reason Mike was drafted is he's just this freak, physical, gifted tight end who was a really good receiving tight end, and we hoped he could have, brought that to Miami. Unfortunately, he did not his rookie season for whatever reason. I feel like he just didn't really get a chance to do that schematically. All this to me adds competition, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, the more competition, the better. We're not paying anything for him. I mean, we're literally paying peanuts for this guy, and he adds an element to the offense that it needed. He's the best blocking tight end in football, so I don't see any. I know they're like, well, why would you spend all this, all these resources on tight ends? It's not that many resources. Yeah, you spend a second and fourth round pick on 2 tight ends. Then you go out and get another one. After that, who else is there? That's just 3 of them. That's like, oh, I mean, I guess you got Marquise Gray still here, but what does that have to do with anything? I don't understand why people have a problem with this. I mean, whatever, dude. I think it's a great signing. I think it helps the football team. And having 3 tight ends on the roster isn't a bad thing. So, I don't get that. You can go to jumbo packages. I mean, it's like having a swing tackle. I just don't see the problem with the criticism of using all those resources. Durham and Mike could still develop into something, so hopefully they do. All right, that's all for the news, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing has really happened. I mean, Tannehill stuff. There's some Trey Flower rumors, but it's literally, as far as that goes, they're literally just rumors. A lot of people are saying the Dolphins. Everybody expects the Dolphins to go after him. We know that, which leads us to our next topic, and that's NFL free agency. When this video uploads, it will probably be Monday at some point. So everybody's pretty much going to be. We'll know where everybody's going at that point. So it's good to do this before that happens, which is NFL free agency. And who are some of the players the Dolphins could target? Now, if you're uninformed about how the Dolphins are going to approach this, they are not going to spend big money. Obviously, Stephen Ross has come out and said that has not worked for us. We are not going to do that. It is not who I would go after if I was the GM of the Dolphins. This is realistically who could become a Dolphin and who I think are good, under the radar, not going to cost a ton of money players. Now, we'll talk about Trey Flowers first. Obviously, he does not fit into that criteria of he's not going to cost much under the radar. But the reason we're going to talk about him is because the Dolphins are apparently going to, go after him in some capacity. So, let's talk about it. Do I like Trey Flowers? Yes. He reminds me a lot of Michael Bennett. He's super versatile. He can play in and outside. So he can play 4-3 defensive end on the outside, and he can move it inside and play 3-4 defensive end. He's really good at stopping the run. He can set the edge outside, and he can be very disruptive in the middle of the line of scrimmage in a 3-4 defense. So he's really disruptive. And I think people underrate the fact that if you get a team consistently in 3rd down and longs, you're winning. You're going to win that game. You have a very, very high chance of winning that game. And Trey Flowers can do that at a very high level. And it's something Michael Bennett has done for years at a very high level. So I think Trey Flowers is worth every penny. Like a Michael Bennett, he's not going to put up 15 sacks a year because he plays all 3 downs at such a high level. Like Von Miller he could set the edge, but he's really not. I mean, he's not going to disrupt he's not ever put inside the line of scrimmage. He's always on the outside of the line of scrimmage. Trey Flowers is on both, like he's inside, outside. Okay, so he's not pass rushing that's not his job. His job is just to wreck the game plan. Is he this great pass rusher? No. He's literally just Michael Bennett. And I'm not even saying he's a poor man's Michael Bennett. He is that kind of player. And he is at that level of Michael Bennett. So is he worth like $17 million a year? I would have to look at what the top pass rushers are getting. I don't think he's worth. I don't even think he's going to get $17 million a year. I don't think that's something that he will get. I think his market is being overblown, just like Kenny Stills and the wide receiver market was being overblown that particular season. I don't think he's going to command that much money. I say he's probably going to get 14 million a year, somewhere in there, if that. Really, he might get 11 a year. I don't think he's getting no 17. I think that's ridiculous. I don't think he's getting that much, but if you can get him in between 10 to 14 million, I don't think I would be too upset about that. I think he is a very impactful player. I think he is someone you can build around on the defensive line, and say you match him up with someone like a Montez Sweat or who's the two, I can't remember their names right now, the 2 defensive linemen from Clemson, Ed Oliver from Houston, someone who could potentially drop in the draft for whatever reason. I don't think Montez Sweat will anymore, but he was projected to go from like 10 to 15, somewhere in there before the combine. Obviously now he's probably going to be a top 10 player, but you could really build a special line of scrimmage on the defensive side of the football if you got a Trey Flowers or in a high, because obviously the D linemen in this upcoming draft are so good. It's very deep, so there's potential that you could build something pretty special there. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. And like I said, I think the reason people are reacting is, oh, he's going to be so much money. I don't think he's going to be that much money. So this is a top 100 free agent list. They actually have Trey Flowers number 1 over Le'Veon Bell, which is pretty crazy. And by the way, Trey is 26 years old, so that's pretty crazy. Super young player. So I'm looking at this list, and I don't think we're going to get any of these safeties for obvious reasons. So I'm just not able to talk about them. There are, like a C.J. Mosley, again, big name. I don't think the Dolphins are going to get anywhere near that. Ronald Darby, I think you could make an argument. He's definitely a great number 2, but believe it or not, he's still 25 years old, which is crazy. I don't know what his market will be, but that would be a really good target for the Dolphins. I think he's a very good player. He just can't stay healthy, but he's a really good man-to-man coverage corner. Great ball skills, too, despite his height. So he would be high on my list, but I don't know what his market will be. So I couldn't really tell you if that's a realistic option. But I still feel like he's under the radar, especially with all his injuries. I don't think his market's going to be too big. So that's something that the Dolphins I will say that's something to look out for the Dolphins. As for some other players, Adam Humphries, I think he's going to command a lot of money, so I don't see that happening. I gotta blow my nose real quick. I do it with my... It's leaking everywhere. I'm sorry, guys. Hopefully that was away from the mic. Linebackers, there's some high-level linebackers in this free agent class. You got Quan Alexander, C.J. Mosley. I just don't think the Dolphins are going to be super interested in any of those. C.J. would fit the scheme perfectly, but again, I think he's going to command way too much money. I still stand by people like Danny Shelton. I think that would be a great pickup for the Dolphins. Brett Urban. Who else? Malcolm Brown. Those would be super versatile players, especially on first and second down. You add Trey Flowers to that defensive line, that will be a dominant run defense. And that's something the Dolphins haven't had in a while. And those are super cheap players. Nose tackles that are really good at what they do, especially someone like Danny Shelton, who's young and has a lot of potential. You got a Malcolm Brown out there who's had a very good young career so far. Those are super under players that I've been talking about for a while that I would love to see the Dolphins get. Another one on this top 100 list, he's ranked 40, Steven Nelson. I think he's a great underrated player that the Dolphins could pick up. Tim Jernigan, the defensive tackle from Philly, another really, really good run-stuffing player. He's a little bit more high profile than your Malcolm Browns and your Denny Sheltons, but still someone to look out for as a potential signing for the Dolphins. Henry Anderson, another under the radar. He's like, I think he's right here. He's 28 years old, young. He's not as good as Danny Shelton or I would even say he's not good as either the interior lineman that I named, but he's a good 3-4 defensive end. He's good. He would be a good player to have on the team, especially against the run. Corey Legent, that is a wild card right there. I don't know what his market is, but he's a great player. He's 29 years old. He's really good against the run, and he's a pretty dang good pass rusher as well. But he cannot stay healthy. I can't even remember the last time he had a healthy season. I don't know what the market is for him, but I don't think he would still rank below the Danny Sheltons, the Malcolm Browns, and the Brett Urbans of the world because of his health. Because I feel like Danny Shelton and a Malcolm Brown give me that for 16 games of dominant run defense, and I would rather sign those guys because at least they're not going to get injured, and they still give me what I'm paying for at a high level. I think we already mentioned Steven Nelson. Some other players. I would definitely look at the interior. Low, not high rate, like under the radar interior lineman. I think the Dolphins will sign to get that run defense. And a lot of them are for New England, which makes it even better. I think Ronald Darby's another one that would be a sneaky signing for us. Like I said, his market could be could be deflated a little bit because of his injury history. Oh, it's Brent Urban, excuse me. It's not Brent Urban. Brent Urban is he's a good pass rusher too, and he's super under the radar, and he's dominant against the run defense. He's a 3-4 defensive end, in case you guys don't know. He's only 28 years old. And I've been talking about it. If you ever think about any time we've ever played against the Baltimore Ravens, he's always been one of those guys that we just cannot block. He's such a good, versatile player who I would love to have on the team, and he would cost nothing. Hopefully the Dolphins pick him up. Bradley Roby is another guy who's a good 2, not a good 1, but somebody potentially that the Dolphins could look at. Really good man coverage corner. I wouldn't say really good. He's just a good man coverage corner. So that could be someone to look out for. In terms of some other people, Jamie Collins, I think he's going to have a high market, so I couldn't see that happening. But still a really good player and would fit the scheme perfectly. Obviously, formerly, he was coached by Brian Flores for a while there. And Patrick Graham, our defensive coordinator, coached him as a linebackers coach. So that could be something, if his market's not, which it will be. I think that's unrealistic. Some other free agents to watch. All the Dolphins going to be in the market for a bridge quarterback, who knows? So I would say Teddy Bridgewater would be the number one up there if they are in the market for someone like that. I could see Teddy Bridgewater being the only one that could be targeted, so that's something to look out for. Jason Verrett, another guy that his market could be super low, that we could take a flyer on. It could pay off huge dividends. Super talented guy, but cannot stay healthy. Some other players to look out for. Right, like we said, Danny Shelton already. Already said Malcolm Brown, great player. Vinny Curry, he's more of a free 4-3 outside guy, not very versatile, so not really. Malik Jackson, no, not really. I don't see that. Preston Brown, no, not really. I feel like we have better linebackers than him. Morris Claiborne, that's a good one. He's a very good, and this is the top 100 NFL.com free agent list. Morris Claiborne is a really good underrated player. He had a pretty good season last year with the Jets. He's a good man coverage corner, great ball skills too. He had a really rough start to his career with Dallas. See some other players here. I don't see any receivers. I mean, Philip Dorsett. There's players like maybe like a Dante Moncrief. Low get like low guys that aren't going to command a ton of money. I just don't see the Dolphins getting any free agent receivers. Maybe, but I don't see it. Randall Cobb's out there. You still have Tyrod Taylor as a bridge quarterback. I would definitely, if I'm a Dolphins fan, keep my eye on that. Jesse James is another under the radar name. Mark Barron. I don't think he fits the scheme though. He's probably, I guess he's in the same vein as an Landon Roberts, who's a good coverage guy. Could maybe do a little bit of everything. So yeah, that's it. Those are all the people that I could say off the NFL top 100 list that I could say that the Dolphins could potentially, in a realistic signing for the Dolphins, would be some of those guys that we listed. So yeah, I feel like that was a good little segment right there. Right after the news, we got a nice little discussion about free agents. Right, the day before free agency really kicks off. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not familiar with the show, we're about to get into the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. If you're interested in that, I've been listening 25 minutes. Go ahead and check out the channel. We have a ton of videos and stuff of that nature. We do podcasts only here, so if you like that and you like to listen to Dolphins content, then go check out the channel. And, I feel like you've been listening, 25 minutes, you hit the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button. It's 25 minutes. It's 25 minutes. You know what I'm saying? You don't listen to someone's voice for 25 minutes if you don't like the content. That's my point. So let's get into the fan Q&A. You guys asked 38 questions. The reason that's like a record for the last 3 weeks, almost a month, is I have released the question where you guys ask questions. I don't know what you would call that. The day of the video coming out. And this week we finally got it right. I released it early. We're close to 2,000 subscribers, by the way. If you guys want to kick that into gear, that would be great. So, yeah. Thank God. I mean, with 38 questions, can carry us the rest of the way. Because, we've been talking for about 26 minutes. Usually, the podcast is an hour, so it's good that we have this many questions to go through. It was a pretty long pause. Probably too long. But, yeah. I forgot to talk about Tannehill. Right before we get it, I'll just ask this for you guys. What the heck do you think is going to happen with Tannehill? Because he's still, obviously we're going to find out here pretty soon. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't think he's going to get traded. I think we all know that. But I guess, yeah, he's going to get cut. If he's kept somehow, oh, wow, that's pretty crazy. I would rather see what Luke Folk and, what's his name, Jake Rudock, whatever it is. I can't remember, the guy from Michigan. I'd rather see those two compete than see number 17 come back. We're not going to, if he comes under, he is someone that has to have players around him. And as of right now, that, depending on how we deal with the offensive line situation, it's not the best roster for his attributes. So, yeah, we need to let him go. So, let's get into the fan Q&A. This first question comes from Rides Sharing 101. I gotta blow my nose away from the mic real quick. Apologize. He asks, would you trade Xavier Howard to the Jets if you could swap first-round picks with them in the 2019 draft? I think we got this question before. I can't remember if we did. It sounds familiar, though. It's a great question. It's a great point. No, I don't think I would. If you move up to 4... the 3 people in front of you probably took someone that you wanted. You're really getting... I feel like you could, if you wait, you're going to still get a pretty good player at 13 and still have Xavier Howard. I think the quarterback run will happen. I do think Drew Lock will be taken in the top 10. I think Kyler Murray will be taken in the top 10. And I think Dwayne Haskins will be taken in the top 10. Someone will trickle down to us that's really, really good. Or we could trade up like two to 3 spots easy, not give up too much. Maybe 2 spots to get someone that we really like. I don't think we have to go up to 4 to get someone that's going to be really good and that we really, really like. I feel like the talent will trickle down. Again, there's no one in the draft. There's not like an Andrew Luck in this draft. I love Kyler Murray. But is he worth Xavier Howard? That's a tough one. So I would have to say no. I would not do it. This next question comes from Matthew N. He says, what do you think of the Dwayne Allen signing? Well, we talked about it before. I really don't... The criticism is interesting, and I get it. I understand why people could be upset about it. I'm not saying I think it's, completely stupid how any... No, I get it. But I feel like, hey, dude, the more competition, the better. And having 3 tight ends on the roster is not that bad. You know what I mean? Marquise Gray is not the future of tight ends on this roster. At least we have Dwayne Allen, who we know is one of the, if not the best blocking tight end in football. I think Gronk's the best, but Dwayne Allen is definitely top 3. So I think he adds something that the Dolphins have, been lacking a lot, and that's the physicality and a real ability to run the football. And that's something the Patriots really like to do, is get into that I formation and get into that single back set under center and really pound the rock, and especially in the I formation. So if that's something that we can utilize in our game, I think that's perfect, and that's something that the Dolphins have been missing. So I know people are like, well, why would you use so many resources on a tight end? A second, a fourth, and now a $7 million contract, which is nothing. I don't think it's too bad. And those 2 other players still haven't fully developed yet. They've only played 1 season, especially a 4th-round pick. I don't think anybody expects a 4th-round pick in their first year to be God. So we'll see what happens in their second year. So I just don't vibe with that criticism. I get it, just don't vibe with it. I think the more competition, the better. And the more versatility on the better. And I think that's what he adds. So I like the sign. Ron asks, you keep bringing up T.J. Edwards, linebacker, Wisconsin. What about him do you like that he would bring to the Dolphins defense? I hope it's not pass rush. No, I just think he's like a Rob Ninkovich type of a guy. I think he's just a really good edge defender. His tackle for loss numbers are off the charts. I think he's had 10 plus tackle for losses over his career there in Wisconsin. He's used to going against pro-style offenses in the Big Ten, like those physical, really good offensive lines that pound the rock. So I think he translates well. I think he's that typical New England style outside linebacker. He reminds me a lot of like a Kyle Van Noy, just a big physical, guy who can really mess things up in the running game. This next question comes from JFG. He asks, who would you like? That's why I would run. So just really good edge defender. And I think he'll be like, what? His projected go, 4th, 5th round? Maybe somewhere in there. JFG asks, what would you like this draft? Excuse me, I completely botched that. JFG asks, how would you like this draft if Kyler does not fall to us? Defensive end Farrell out of Clemson, edge defender. Round 2, Zach Allen, D lineman out of Boston College. Round 3, Eric McCoy, center from Texas A&M. 4th round, Darrell Henderson, running back Memphis. Round 5, Daylon Mack, nose guard from Texas A&M. Nose guard. That wouldn't be right. I don't know what NG stands for. You'd have to tell me. I've never seen that be described for a position. Offensive guard, Samia from Oklahoma. Max Crosby, edge defender from Eastern Michigan. Sam Ia, I think is how you pronounce his name. I could be wrong. Ia. Obviously, we don't know how the draft is going to work out. Is that a good draft? It's a solid. I don't love it, but it's good. I think it's solid. The way I would describe it is solid. I think the 1st round pick is pretty good. I think it's solid, a 1st round pick. I don't think he's as good as a lot of people are saying. I don't think he's like this great. I could be wrong. Well, I take that back. He was really good. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a very, very good 1st round pick. I take back what I said. He is a very talented player. As for like the later round picks, I mean, you definitely went. went in the trenches for sure. So I think it's a solid draft for sure, and I definitely think that answer checks the box, and that's something I would do. I would definitely solidify the lines, which is what this draft is for anyway. Especially on the defensive line, it's loaded, so we could really transform this to be one of the better young defensive lines in the National Football League, and one of the better ones for years to come. I think that's a great opportunity to do that. So yeah, it's a solid one. Crow, he asks, Crow, I don't know. He asks, how do you feel about the Dolphins releasing Danny Amendola? What free agents do you think they should target? I mean, we went through that. Who should they target? What do I think the Dolphins are releasing Danny Amendola? I think he's still a solid guy, if we're being honest. Like, I know I've given him a lot of hate before, but if you really go back and look at some of I'm going to say tape, like I'm some scout, but if you go back and look at the tape, he is still a solid slot receiver. He just didn't get the ball. And he was open, and just nobody saw him. Either that or protection broke down. This next question comes from Corporate Gamer. He asks, one player you should watch some tape on is wide receiver Gary Jennings. He could be very likely be a 4th or 5th round gem. Yeah, I haven't watched a lot of Gary Jennings, so, and obviously I had a combine, so I would. There's also that receiver from Arizona State, or is it maybe, I think it's Arizona State, that I want to go watch as well. This next question comes from Chad. This is how he starts the question. He says a deep question. If it's a deep, it better be a deep question. You can't start off a question like that and it not be deep. So do not disappoint us. He asks this is what he says. He says, a deep question for you, Skags. I hear a lot of people giving the benefit of the doubt about a certain players for not being involved. Giving the benefit of doubt about certain players for not being involved because Gase was using them improperly. I wondered if Ryan Tannehill falls into that category. I wonder if we would have a different opinion about Ryan if he was allowed to close out certain games. That's a great question. That's a deep question, and you know what? It is deep. Is it deep? We'll let the audience decide. If you made it 36 minutes in and you're listening to me right now, comment if that's deep or not. This question comes from Chad, and tell me if that's deep. Because I'm on the fence right now if it's deep or not. This is an interesting question. Ryan has went through he's went through 2 head coaches, but really he's went through like 4. How many GMs has he been through? Jeff Ireland, Dennis Hickey. Really, I think that's it. And then obviously he's right now Chris Greer. Head coaches, offensive coordinators, a lot more than that. Or not head coaches, offensive coordinators. But we've seen him in different schemes. Really, the one that's gotten the best out of him statistically was what the heck is his name? Laser offensive coordinator who now coaches for the Bengals. Cannot remember his name right now. Or used to coach the Bengals offense. Statistically, in terms of touchdown to interception ratio, that was the best, not completion percentage and winning games. But turns out his interception ratio, he gave him the best. But best season was Adam Gase, 2016. So no, I don't think Adam was the reason. Why did Adam throw the screens and all that other stuff on 3rd down? I think he really was because of the offensive line. I mean, we saw against Minnesota what we tried to do when we tried to go pick up a 3rd and long. I mean, it was ugly. I think he was worried about the same thing happening there. Is it still a stupid call? At 1,000%. You still have to have faith in your team. I don't care how bad they are. You still have to go try to win the game. But no, I don't think Gase was using Tannehill improperly. Corporate Gamer, this is the first time we've ever said a deep question, and I love deep questions. Again, I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence. This next question it's still a great question, Chad, though. But for it to be deep, I mean that requires a lot of thought. Corporate Gamer asks, one quarterback I would like to take in either the 2nd or 3rd round is BSU's quarterback Brett Ripon. Thoughts, and this is assuming we are tanking for Tua. The 2nd or 3rd round, no. Heck no, dude. There are better quarterbacks that you could take in this. Finley from what did he play? Where did Finley play? Ryan Finley, I think that's his name. He's better than him, and he's projected to go in the second or third round. So no, I disagree with that. Corporate gamer. JFG says, do you think outside linebacker Zadarius Smith for Baltimore would be a good signing for us? I've thought about this, and I almost brought him up in today's podcast. The only reason I didn't is because I just don't think he's versatile enough. I don't think he's really good against the run. I just feel like he's a stand-up guy, and that's really all he can do. He cannot put his hand in the ground. But you could make the argument, is he a good outside linebacker like a Willie McGinnis or a Rob Ninkovich? And I think you're probably right. Actually, the more I think about that actually fits more than I thought. So do you think Zadarius Smith from Baltimore would be a good signing for us? Yes, I do. He's a really good run defender. And he's an okay to good pass rusher. He's some games he can take over a game, rushing the passer, and others he just doesn't show up. That's why I say he's okay to good, but he's a really good run defender. If we get Brent Urban and him, I mean, dude, I don't know what Zadarius Smith's market will be, but because he has like the same. If you put Jadeveon Clowney, other than their face, but they have the same hairstyle, same body. Like there's big athletic guys who are really strong. I don't know what his market will be though. It'll be interesting to see. This next question comes from JFG. He says, what do you think we will get for trading Robert Quinn? Nothing. Just listen. Just get him off the roster, dude. If we take a hit, I don't care. He just does not need to be on the roster. He definitely doesn't fit the scheme. Will asks, this question comes from Will. He asks, that last question came from JFG. I don't know if I said that. This question comes from Will. He asks, I'm pretty sure all the trade X talk was just Colts fans hoping for another Vontae Davis steal. Do you agree it was smart for Greer to deny the rumors? Yeah. Well, I think this last podcast we discussed this. We are actively trying to get a deal done with him right now. It hasn't gotten done yet, but if we weren't doing that, then yeah, he's gonna get traded. But you guys got to remember, not on the last year of his contract. He still has 1 year left, and we're actively trying to get him, tied down to us for a long time. So I think that's a really good sign that he's not going anywhere. This question comes from Will. He asks, do you think Malik Jackson, Ziggy Ansah, Trey Flowers, or Preston Smith are realistic targets for us? Malik Jackson, I don't think is as good as he used to be. Ziggy Ansah is inconsistent at best, health-wise and football-wise. Trey Flowers is really good, and it doesn't fit what the Dolphins have been saying, but if it's true, I guess. And again, I don't think his market is going to be $17 million. I think it's going to be a lot lower than that. Like I said, I think it'll be from 11 to 14, maybe 10 to 14. I really think people are just inflating his value. Preston Smith, I think we have better linebackers than him. So realistic targets, I really wouldn't call any of them realistic. The only reason I call Trey Flowers, I guess you could call him realistic, is because of all the rumors. But again, they're still rumors. Not to mention, not only because of their play, but Ziggy Ansah will command a lot of money. Malik Jackson, I don't think he's going to command any money. I still don't think he's a great player. They've really struggled to stop and run with him. The Jacksonville Jaguars did on the team. That's why they signed or traded for Marcel Darius. He really doesn't do any. He's not a great pass rusher. He had one really good season with Denver, that was a star-filled defense, and he really took advantage of that. When he went to Jacksonville, really didn't make a ton of noise. Wasn't a great run defender. Wasn't a great pass rusher. I just don't think he's a very good player. Ziggy Ansah is going to command a lot of money because he's had a really good success pass rushing in the past, so that's unrealistic. And Preston Smith, I just don't think is better than Raekwon McMillan, Jerome Baker, or and keep in mind, this is a 4-3 linebacker we're talking about, or Kiko Alonso. And I'm talking about Preston Smith being a 4-3. He is, so I just don't think schematically, talent, I just don't see it. To answer your question, Will. This next one comes from Matthew. He asks, do you think Miami will cut Josh Sitton? Yes, for sure. If they don't, that would surprise me. But is he worth keeping around? No. I mean, the man can constantly... He's a really good player, but he cannot stay healthy, dude. This next question comes from Will. He says, there are a lot of tall wide receivers in this draft. What do you think Chris Greer plans to do plans to replace Parker, draft or free agency? Oh man, I really don't see him taking any receivers. I think we're comfortable with the guys we have in house right now. I mean, Jakeem Grant, a lot of upside. Albert Wilson, a ton of upside. Kenny Stills, if he's kept around, pretty dang good player. And they have Chad coming over, who's a really good coach, who can coach them and really get the best out of them. I think there's a lot of potential there. I think Albert legitimately has a chance to becoming a number one. I know he's really small, but he legitimately does. I mean, just the stuff that we saw him do last year in that offense was special. And I think we could do this. It's the same type of principles this offense is going to be. A lot of the run after the catch opportunities, way better designed screens in this offense than last offense. I think you could have that Julian Edelman role in this offense, but even more impact, even more statistical impact, like yards. Like he's Julian Edelman on steroids athletically. Physically too. I mean, this man is so hard to tackle. So is Julian, but Albert has the quickness, speed, toughness. He has everything to be one of the best little receivers in the National Football League. And it's going to be really fun to see where he goes, especially with someone like Chad coming over, coaching him. I think it could be something really special. So, it's depending on how the Dolphins view the group, but I don't necessarily think you have to go out and get a receiver. I think it's not as needed as you might think. That doesn't take away from the talent level that's there. Like I said, I want to go check out, I think it's Arizona State. I can't remember. Some Arizona college player who was very good in college. I can't remember his name right now. But I want to go watch more of him. He's really good. I think you could probably snag him second, third round maybe, and I think you would get pretty dang good value for that selection. So who knows, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't, because I personally like the in-house guys. So what do you think Chris Greer plans to replace Parker? He might not go out and get a big name, free agency or draft-wise. So my answer is I think he likes in-house. But some guys that I like the kid from Arizona, I don't want to say kid, the grown man from Arizona State. And I mean the Missouri or the Ole Miss guys. I mean DK Metcalf, he's going high. I mean we're not even gonna sniff him. We're not even gonna take him even if he was there. I think his name's AJ Brown, the slot-ish receiver. I don't think he's someone that, I mean he's gonna be a very good player in the vein of like a Jarvis Landry. But will the Dolphins take another slot guy? Probably not. I could see them taking like an X guy, like that guy from Arizona State. Not the fastest guy in the world, not slow either, but pretty good receiver and really good production at Arizona State. My point is that would not be the worst selection in the world if we went with someone like that in the second round or third round. Would I rather take an interior O-lineman? Yeah. This question comes from Ron. He asks, but to answer your question real quick, what do I think Greer will do? I think most likely he'll just stay in-house. I don't think you're going to see him make any big name guys like that. Ron asks, this question comes from Ron. He asks, I would target safety Darnell Savage of Maryland. I wouldn't draft another cornerback. We need a true center fielder who can also tackle with authority, covering man without being burnt toast. And at the combine, Savage showed off his fluid hips and drills on tape versus Ohio State. He looked like Earl Thomas. Your thoughts, Gags? I know you don't like my questions, LOL. I love your questions, Ron. I mean, you've been a loyal supporter. It's good to have questions that I don't agree with either. You know, I like your questions. I just might not agree with your opinion, but I still like your questions. He says, okay, so, well, I think Minka is that guy who you could play free safety, and then just go get a corner that's good. You know what I'm saying? I would rather get Greedy Williams and then put him in center field. I think that would be great, but that would be my solution to the problem. But I like Darnell Savage. He's a good player. He's a good talented player that we could add at the secondary. But I disagree on how to fix that problem. I don't disagree he's not a good player, but I disagree that I would rather just get like Minka and then get a corner.
to play beside Xavier. This next question comes from Will. He asks, "How do you feel seeing that they seem to be content with keeping Rashad Jones and letting Wake see what's out there?" I'm getting sadder just thinking about it. The Rashad Jones doesn't make me as sad. He's a great box safety, but we can't have two box safeties on the team. The TJ McDonald situation is what makes me sad. Let him go, dude. I heard there was. I think we discussed this on a podcast and. I don't know when, but they were talking about keeping TJ, and I'm like, what are you talking about? No, dude, that was one of the worst signings we've ever done, dude. I remember not liking it when we did it. What has TJ done, dude? Like, that's been worth nothing. We're a better team without him, dude. We need to let him go. At least Rashad's a great box safety who's got great ball skills. And a box safety cannot necessarily bust coverage, by the way. Like, he's not really reliant on the big play, which is a good thing. And that's exactly where Rashad Jones needs to fit, because he's a terrible free safety. I'm more sad that, TJ's being... Will asks, what's a surprise player signing you think would be a good fit for us? A surprise player signing? We really went through it, but I would love to see a Brent Urban, a Danny Shelton, a Malcolm Brown, a Zardarius Smith, a player like that can really help us stop the run and be a physical, good defense. And I think it's so underrated. First and second down to me are the most important downs because it's so easy. It's way easier to defend a 3rd and 11 than it is a 3rd and 5. But to get to that 3rd and 11, you need to have a good front, and I feel like doing that would really just the secondary that we have. If we constantly put people in 3rd and longs, and there's so many good pass rushers out there, just to sign a couple low, under the radar free agents that do that job so very well, I think it would be such a good move for the front office, and this defense could be scary, so scary next year, dude. It could be really, really, really good. I'm talking from the 12 to 10 range good. I'm serious. This next question comes from Jay Rose. He asks, I believe Wake is a free agent now, and this next contact may be his last. Would you be sad if he didn't re-sign with the Dolphins? No, absolutely not. I wouldn't be sad. I mean, it sucks, but I wouldn't be sad. I feel like it's time to move on. This next question comes from Emmanuel. He asks, why is no one talking about Folk as a realistic option? I think he's a perfect for a dink and dunk offense. He had a 70% completion percentage at college and completely outshined Darnold in last year's game when they played each other. When it's Washington State. And it was Washington State versus USC. That's what it was. Yeah, Luke Falk, I'd love to come out of college. I think I remember when people thought he was going to go in the 2nd round, and then he went to the Senior Bowl, and it just looked terrible. So, yeah, I think Luke Falk is a sneaky good player. He did not have that. I mean, his arm strength really showed in preseason, but his preseason was not as bad as I remember it being. It's still not great, but I feel like there's still potential there. I just feel like not a lot of people. I think the reason why Emmanuel is not a lot of people know about Luke Falk. At least mainstream people don't. But I do think he could be someone that could be our future, for real. He's a good player. At least in college he was. We'll see what he can do at the National Football League. He was a really good player in college. I mean, he passed for it 60 times a game. Literally averaged 60 attempts a game. And he had, I don't know if it's true, he had a 70% completion percentage, but it was really high. And if that's true, I mean, that is so hard to do. So hard to do. Ron asks, this question comes from Ron, he asks, would Skaggs keep Minka at cornerback or move him to free safety? I heard Minka would like to remain at corner, and his stats at college and rookie year, he does more corner than safety. I was one of the people who thought Minka could play boundary, but he proved me wrong when he filled in for injuries. Couldn't play boundary. He said could, not could. But he proved me wrong when he filled in for injuries, especially versus the Vikings when he shut down Stephon Diggs and took his first pick 6, LOL. I mean, I think either position he plays is great. It doesn't matter. He's a great cover player in general. It doesn't matter what position he plays. I didn't hear Minka ever say that he would rather play. See, what did you say? I heard Minka would like to remain a corner. I've never heard Minka say that. I think what Minka said was, I want to know what position I'm playing, because he said that I would need to weigh heavier if I play safety, but if I'm at corner, I need to either stay at the weight I am at, or maybe he said he needed to lose weight. I don't know, but he said he wants to know what position he's going to play. So unless I missed something, I don't know, but that I don't think he ever said that. I could be wrong. You could be right, Ron. But I think it was more of lines, he just wants to know what he's going to play. I would rather, I mean, I don't really care. I think either way, but we do need a free safety, and we have potentially a great player that could be a free safety and be very, I mean, I think that's his natural position, and I think he would kill it. But it doesn't really matter to me, because I think he'll kill it either way. I don't really have a preference, to be honest with you. It doesn't matter to me. If you can't find a free safety, then that would be a problem. My favorite hypothetical would be Greedy Williams. I mean, he ran a really fast 40 time at his height. I feel like, and he had a great in the SEC. Him and then put Minka in free safety, I think would be a great thing. But also, man, get a really good pass rusher too. That's what makes the draft so hard. Is there's so many good. You have to make a hard decision. Corporate Gamer asks, I hope Devontae Parker Robert Quinn is next to be released. We need more cap space for Xavier Howard and James right now. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know how much Robert will let go. I don't know. I don't think Devontae will let go any, really. I think it's just we won't pick up his option. Or I think he's just straight up a free agent. I can't remember. Corporate Gamer asks, would you be down for bringing Ajayi back if he wanted to come back? No. That ship has sailed. He is not what you want running back nowadays anyway. He's not a two-way guy. He could be our like LeGarrette Blount for this offense though. I don't know. I feel like Kalen and Kenyon are just fine. Will says, I think a potential new center needs a veteran presence besides just James Tunsil. Do you think they should keep Sinton? I don't know. I don't know if they should keep him. I think he's a liability. I mean, he could literally just get hurt again. I feel like he should probably move on. Jesse Parker asks, who will be Dolphins breakout player next year? Gesicki, Balaj, Grant, Rudock, McMillan, Gottschalk, rookie. I feel like Gesicki and Balaj will have a really good season, especially Balaj because he'll get more playing time. Grant, I feel like he was having a really good season before he got hurt. Rudock, probably not. McMillan, yes. Gottschalk, he's a solid player. I think he'll just keep being solid. This question comes from Matthew, and he says, just read that they are going, or excuse me, just read, I'm an idiot, that they're going to keep Kilgore and let him compete with Swanson. Why don't they just release Kilgore? If that is true, I'm so upset about that. John Nolan asks, is your pug a Dolphins fan? His name is Marino, the pug. Yeah, he's a Dolphins fan. And if you guys remember, a long time ago, this was when Laramie was drafted, I mentioned the pug Marino. I mean, that was in one video, so I don't expect you all to know that. But yeah. Ron asks, when it comes to the draft, what key factors will the Dolphins go in deciding on a particular player? Meaning guard, for example, will toughness separate two close guys like the trades do? You think they are now looking for? I think physical, yeah, physicality I feel like will separate the two. For sure. I think that will definitely be something that they would look for, especially in a guard. Just how good they are up front and at the point of attack in the running game. I think it's something that they value a lot in their guards. In athleticism too. Not necessarily athletic. I take that back. This next question comes from Ron. He says, I think Trey Flowers would be a horrible free agent signing. He only recorded 7 sacks. Is he going to command more than $15 million a year, which is insane for that low of production? Am I wrong? Yeah, because I feel like you're not looking at what he does so well. He literally is just Michael Bennett. If you like if you're not a fan of what Michael Bennett did with the Seahawks, then I could okay. But if you are, then you're gonna get every bit of what you paid for. He just wrecks a game plan. Especially, he will set. You're not running at Trey Flowers. And he's a good, not great pass rusher. Well, that's going to be it, guys, for this week's episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you watched the entire hour, I feel strongly that you at least enjoyed it. Consider, I'm just reminding you, go check out the channel and subscribe. In case you forgot, don't click off the video so fast. At least give me you listen to an hour. Give me that courtesy. If you're already subscribed, spread the word. Let's hit 2,000 subscribers, ladies and gentlemen. And I cannot wait to see you guys in the next one.